I've been receiving anonymous love letters for 5 years. Today, I found out it was my ex-wife's brother. Good. That's what they say at the end of a meeting. Good. We'll reconsider. Good, but not convinced. Good, but not enough. As if their approval mattered to me. As if I needed some asshat's validation for a business I built with my own goddamn blood and bones. But today wasn't just about the deal. It was about the client's business partner sitting across from me, leaning back in the chair like he owned the room. His smirk felt like a blade pressed to an old wound, shallow but still aching. Logan Peterson. The guy Celeste cheated on me with. And today, he decided to be more than just the smug bastard who wrecked my marriage. He decided to poke the wound, twist the knife, and make sure I felt it all over again. Marriage didn't work out, did it, Nate? He said, swirling his coffee like he wasn't waiting for a response. It's funny how a man's incompetency shows everywhere, not just in his personal life. If you couldn't keep your wife happy, how do we know you can keep our investment safe? I didn't reply. Didn't need to. The death stare I gave was enough to have the room go silent, thick with unspoken tension. I finished the meeting, shook hands with the people I didn't want to touch, and walked out. Now, in the office, my employees were quieter than usual, burying their noses in their screens as I strode past. And they could probably feel it, the storm rolling off me in waves, the kind that warned them to stay the hell out of my way. I put through the door to my office, seething. Neil, my office, now. Neil, my assistant, jumped up at the call, pale. He hesitated, but I narrowed my eyes, and he scurried in. You checked the client who was coming, didn't you? Yes, sir. Then why the hell did you let that man into my meeting? Neil rambled about how Logan insisted on coming along, but I wasn't listening. The fact that Neil didn't tell me Logan was involved only fueled my fury. You didn't tell me Logan was coming. I seethed, already done with his apology. You know what? You're fired. Get out. Neil begged me not to fire him, but it was too late. The 5th PA since my divorce. A commendable record. I barely noticed the satisfaction in firing him. Probably just a release for my rage. I reached into the drawer for painkillers, trying to stave off the headache splitting my skull, but instead of the bottle, my hand landed on something else. A letter. For 5 years, anonymous letters had been arriving in my house mailbox. The letter that I decided not to open and keep in the office drawer. The letter in poetry in a familiar, unplaceable hand. A letter with no stamp, no postcard, and no address. I checked the CCTV outside my apartment and saw a kid around 10 years old, child placing the letter inside. When I caught up with the kid, he told me that some guy in a hoodie had given him chocolate in exchange for dropping the letter in my mailbox. After that, different kids kept showing up with letters, and I had no idea whether the guy in the hoodie was the sender or just a middleman. I exhaled, headache dulling already as I traced the edges of the envelope. It was ridiculous. Really, these letters shouldn't mean anything. It was probably some elaborate prank or mistake, and yet I opened it. Again. Nate, if the sky collapses, will you hold it up or let it bury you? I think you'd stand, shoulders trembling, legs unsteady, but you'd stand. Even when it is here to fall, that's what you do. You carry the weight of everything, even when it breaks you. But I hope you know it doesn't have to. The sky will not fall, and even if it does, you don't have to hold it alone. Yours always. My throat tightened. I should have laughed. Should have set the letter aside and filed it under the same category as spam emails and fake condolences. But I didn't. Because this letter, whoever wrote it, knew me in a way I barely knew myself. I ran a hand through my hair, slumping back in my chair. Celeste never wrote letters. She left notes, sure, passive-aggressive reminders about groceries or parties I had no interest in attending. She'd roll her eyes when I forgot, huff under her breath about how I was too obsessed with work to be a real husband. But I wasn't always cold with her. There was a time when I tried for the sake of our marriage. "You're always working, Nate," she said once as she sat on the edge of our bed. "Do you even know what day it is?" I had, but I didn't answer fast enough. She scoffed. "Our anniversary, Jesus, Nate." I tried apologizing, even bought home flowers the next day. She let them rot in the vase. And then there was Rory, her brother. I remember the look on her brother Rory's face when Celeste and I parted ways. The guy whose fingers had always had a hint of charcoal and ink. A guy with an artistic nature, but while being married to Celeste, he seemed to enjoy more in jabbing me. His smug, twisted grin as he poked at me in the way he always did. "Did you really think Celeste was gonna stay with someone like you, Nate? You're a freaking joke. You know that? You've got no passion, no fire. No wonder she needed someone who could handle her." I could have punched him in the face that day, but the lucky bastard was leaving abroad for his further degrees. Rory always had this intense energy around him, like he was just waiting to provoke me, waiting for me to crack. I ignored him, and that only seemed to amuse him more. But none of that mattered now. Celeste had painted herself the victim after the divorce, spun a story where she was the poor, neglected wife and I was the workaholic husband who never was interested in her. Her statement painted me as a gay in three-piece expensive suit. I didn't correct anyone, let them think what they want to. Instead, I buried myself in work, grew the company tenfold, built an empire from the rubble of my marriage. But these letters? They were the one thing I let slip through the cracks, the one thing I allowed to linger in the space where love used to live. I folded the letters back into the envelope, placing it in the drawer with the others. My eyes flicked to the window, the city skyscraper stretching endlessly below. I was done. Absolutely done. For the past 1 week, I've been forced to sit through endless rounds of interviews, watching as every candidate failed to live up to the goddamn standard I'd set. My grandfather, who'd always been the one to step in when things went south, decided this time I had to do it myself. He was insistent, too, like he thought this was some kind of character-building exercise. So, here I was, sitting in front of another stack of resumes with an HR person beside me, trying to figure out who might not suck. But, when the door swung open, I froze for a second. The guy who walked in wasn't who I expected. Rory. I hadn't seen him in years, and the last time, he was still the arrogant little punk who liked to throw sharp, dismissive glances at me across the dinner table. The same one who used to say I was too cold for his sister, too detached, basically. The kind of guy who would roll his eyes at me because I didn't fit into whatever fantasy of a brother-in-law he had in his head. I leaned back in my chair, not even bothering to hide the fact that I was studying him. My gaze was unreadable. I couldn't let him see anything, especially not that he was actually impressing me. The nerve. "So, Rory," I finally spoke, my voice like ice. "You know this is a serious role, right?" His response was steady. Too steady. "I'm aware, Mr. Calloway. I'm here because I'm capable. That's all you need to know." Mr. Calloway? Capable, huh? Interesting. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. I didn't trust him, not by a long shot. But his answers weren't half bad. He wasn't some idiot pretending to be competent. He knew what he was doing. I kept my expression neutral as HR made their decision. The next day, they told me they were going with Rory. I couldn't find fault with his qualifications, nor after that interview. So, against my better judgment, I signed off on it. The next morning, as I was going through the same tired love letter that had started piling up again, "I can't wait for the day our paths cross," I heard the door click open. "Mr. Calloway," Rory's voice came, stiff and too formal, like he was trying to be the picture-perfect employee. I didn't even look up. My fingers drummed against my desk, and I exhaled slowly. This wasn't the same guy I used to know, the one who used to jab at me. Suddenly changed in a mysterious way, leaving me furious but intrigued. Now, he was standing in front of me, trying to be professional, trying to play a role. It didn't sit right with me. I finally glanced up at him, unable to hide my annoyance. "Rory," I said calmly, "let's get one thing straight. I don't give a damn about our past or how you used to look at me. If you screw up here, I won't hesitate to fire you. So don't think for a second I'll be lenient because we have history. Rory didn't flinch. I'm not thrilled about this either, Mr. Calloway, he muttered, matching my eyes, but they had concealed emotions I wasn't able to pinpoint. But I'm here now, and I intend to do my job. I leaned back in my chair, eyes narrowing. Just don't forget, I don't entertain mistakes, Rory. I'm not your family anymore. I don't do favors. He gave me a look, one that was too calm, too composed for my liking. But he didn't respond. Not with words, just a nod, then he turns and went out of my office like he owns the damn place. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. What the hell had I gotten myself into? A whole damn month of Rory working as my PA, yet I still hadn't found a flaw. I had tried to find something, anything, that shows he's not as perfect as he comes across. He should have slipped up by now. I mean, he's the younger brother of my ex-wife. That alone should give me some ammo to work with, but no. Rory's got his shit together, and it irritates the hell out of me. I even gave him a mountain of work just to see if he'd snap, or get overwhelmed, maybe throw a tantrum, but no, nothing, not a single complaint, just a blank stare and a quiet, "Got it, Mr. Calloway," as he handled everything with this unnerving calmness. Perfect, fucking perfect. The worst part, he's a perfectionist, a walking, talkie, coffee-fetching, schedule-managing machine. It's disgusting, honestly. I hate that he's good at it. I've started depending on him, and that's the last thing I want. It's too close, too familiar, too much like the past. Somehow, though, I can't help but notice the little things, like how he knows exactly what kind of coffee I want when I get in before I even ask, or how he takes care of all the media stuff without me needing to micromanage, and the way he holds his composure when someone gossips about our past relationship connecting to Celeste. It's like he doesn't even care that people are talking behind his back. He shuts them down every time. I overheard him telling someone the other day, "If you don't want me to go straight to HR with your unprofessional behavior, I suggest you drop the gossip." I didn't know whether to be pissed or impressed. He was so calm, so professional about it. I almost forgot I was dealing with a guy who used to be a pain in my ass. The little brother-in-law I used to resent. But now? I don't know. Something about Rory keeps messing with me. I opened up another anonymous letter that came through today. It's the same cryptic poetry as always, but for some reason, I've grown fond of reading them. I never asked for them, never sought them out, but every time one arrives, I find myself curious, wondering who the hell has the nerve to write this stuff to me, and why it feels like they know me better than I know myself. Your silence speaks louder than your words, a mask you wear while truth is stirred. The world is heavy, your steps unsure, yet somehow deep, you search for more. I set the letter down, the weight of it lingering. Yeah, I've been quiet, a little too quiet, ever since the divorce. It feels that I've been in a constant state of just holding it together. The pressure of keeping up the act, of making sure no one knows what's going on behind the closed doors of my mind. And damn it, maybe this stranger was onto something. But I can't acknowledge that. I won't. I grab the pen to respond. I know I don't have to, but something about this keeps pulling me in. I don't even know where to send it, but I decide to write back anyway. In the end, I slip the letter into my own mailbox, hoping, assuming, the sender will come back for it. You're right. The silence consumes, a storm I keep locked in hidden rooms. But I won't break. No matter how loud the roar, I'll keep pushing, even when I don't know what for. Before I can even put the cap on the pen, I hear the door open, followed by the footsteps. Rory came in, iPad in hand, his eyes scanning me for a second before he spoke while making his way towards the desk. "Mr. Calloway, the meeting with Mr. Monroe has been pushed forward by an hour. I've rescheduled everything else accordingly. The HR department has asked your permission for a team-building getaway for the coming weekend. Here is the document you need to sign and give approval on." And, he reads before clearing his throat again to grab my attention, Sir Calloway, your grandfather, had set you up for another blind date. Same place as last time, 8 p.m. Want me to grab your best suit? That old man. He had been relentlessly setting me up with women who were more interested in my fortune than me. And honestly, after how it went down with Celeste, no woman entices me anymore. Well, not that Celeste ever did interest me either. I groaned, huffing while signing away the getaway trip. I gave him the document, looking up at him. No, cancel it. He barely lifts an eyebrow. The date? Sure, but the reservation? Non-refundable. I exhale, narrowing my eyes at him as he holds the iPad tightly, ready to give me a moral speech. It'd be a shame to waste it. You'd still have to pay even if you don't show, and frankly, Mr. Calloway, it's not... Mister, I mutter, shaking my head. Excuse me? Rory stiffens, the mask slipping, replaced by something fiery. It's not being a mister, it's called not being wasteful, he snaps, stepping closer, like he's challenging me. Do you know how many people would kill for... I bite my lips against a smirk. He's always been good at keeping his cool, but not now. Now, he's bristling, animated, alive. I stand up, slow and deliberate, watching as his words catch in his throat. He didn't expect that. Hadn't expected me to close the space between us. His eyes dart to my mouth for the briefest second before snapping back up. Interesting. Since you're so worried about wasting money, I murmur, my voice just a shade lower, why don't you go with me instead? He blinks, his lips part but no words come out. The air between us shifts, heavier now, charged. His throat bobs as he swallows, his eyes flickering between mine like he's trying to figure out if I'm serious or just playing with him. It was booked for your date, he says, but his voice is quieter now, unsure. I shrug. Then think of it as a date. Rory's breath hitches. A slow flush across his neck painted his ears and cheeks in a deep shade of crimson. What? I smirk, stepping just a fraction closer, enough to see the way his fingers clench the iPad and the way his breath falters. So, it's a date then? His pupils dilate. He sways just slightly as if caught in some pull between fight or flight. And for the first time in a long time, I realize I like seeing him like this. Off balance, flustered, vulnerable in a way that makes something tighten at my chest. Yeah, this is definitely more interesting than whatever my grandfather had planned. I really don't know why I approved the idea of a team-building trip. I hadn't been thrilled about it a week ago, and I sure as hell wasn't thrilled about it now. But when Rory mentioned getting on the bus with the others, I just couldn't let that happen. So, I made sure he sat next to me in my car. Of course, I didn't tell him that. I just said, "You're not taking that damn bus leaving your boss alone." And he didn't argue. The drive to the resort was quiet, as usual. Rory didn't talk much, just stared out the window like he always did. His silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was kind of soothing, in a way. It had been that way since that night I dragged him along for that blind date. I thought it would be boring since Rory hardly behaved like his past self, but instead, I ended up at the table with a drunk Rory. I could still hear his voice in my head from that night, slurred but oddly sincere. "You know," Rory said, his gaze slipping from his glass to me and then into my eyes. "You've got these eyes. Those deep grey ones you don't even notice, but they darken when you get in that mood. When you go all cold and distant and... no, I don't know, it's dangerous." Dangerous? Right. "I'm sitting right here," I mutter, trying to avoid whatever weird part he was wandering down. No, he waved his hand like he had all the time in the world. "It's not like that, it's like, I don't know, your eyes just change. Like, I don't know, I want to get lost in them, but not in the way people usually talk about getting lost in your eyes, you know?" I raised an eyebrow. "Then how?" His drunk smile spread. "Like I want to stay there, in those eyes. I've been wanting to for a long while. I've imagined it, actually, a lot." "Yeah, That one hit like a truck, and he didn't even realize it. He kept talking, rambling about things he probably shouldn't have said aloud, but it was endearing in a completely frustrating way. At some point, in between his half-hearted slurring and his fond, far-off looks, Rory muttered something about writing. It was so damn random. I almost didn't catch it, but then he mumbled it again, his words slurring as he clutched his glass a little too tight. "Those letters," he said, hiccuping as his voice trailed off into a sigh, and then he shook his head as if the thought slipped away from him just as quickly as it came. "Not like I'm good at it. I still wrote it, just pouring out what I couldn't say." I blinked, trying to process it. I stayed quiet, like always. His words buzzed in my head long after that, and they still do as I drive. I was not a trip kind of person, but I was still neutral about it until I pulled up at the resort. My mood soared. Of course, fate's got a sick sense of humor, and who do I see? Celeste, my ex-wife, looking like she's enjoying herself a little too much with Logan Peterson, the guy she cheated on me with, the guy who gets on my last nerve. His hands on her waist, all smiles and attention-giving. Logan flashes me a grin like I'm supposed to be impressed by his easy charm. It's sickening, really. "Hey, Nate," Celeste says, voice dripping with feigned sweetness, but her eyes are sharp. "Didn't expect to see you here, or should I say with him. I see you two are getting along now. What a surprise." I scoff. "He's more sufferable than your whole existence." Her eyes narrow just a fraction, like she's calculating something. "Oh, I'm sure he is. Funny how things change." The air between us crackles, and I can almost feel the way her words sink into Rory. He tenses again, just barely, and I see it. Something's off. She knows something, and it's making the already strained atmosphere worse. Logan smirks, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Guess the past rumors about your preference might actually be true, huh, Nate?" The nerve. I'm this close to punching him. I take a step forward, fists clenched, but then Rory's hand is on my arm. Celeste clicks her tongue, smirking, looking between us. "Oh, that fire of anger. I wish you had shown it while we were married. Still so charming. I can see why my little brother has always admired you." Rory had always admired me? That's the moment I know it. Celeste knows. She knows something, and she's trying to bait us both into a mess I don't want to be a part of. And Rory? He's stiff, his hands still on my arms. But he doesn't say a word. His silence starts at me in a way I can't explain. Things had shifted between me and Rory. I don't know what it was, but something about his cold shoulder was irking the hell out of me. I told myself to let it go, that maybe Rory had just been uncomfortable with the way Celeste had jabbed at us, but after that moment, Rory started pulling back even more. When I asked him to sit beside me at lunch, he suddenly had something else to do, sitting next to some random colleagues instead. When it was time for the pair game, I asked him if he wanted to team up with me, and he turned me down with the lame excuse of already having a partner. Then, when I found him alone, ready to just shoot the shit like old times, Rory acted like he'd gotten some urgent call and disappeared faster than I could say his name. I hated it. But I let it slide, until I couldn't anymore. The last night of this stupid team-building trip arrived, and I was already over it. Everyone had decided on a bonfire barbecue with cozy seating. The kind of stuff that felt like it was meant to cure awkward tension, but I wasn't sure it was working for me, especially with Rory making a mission out of avoiding me. And with every drink I had, my patient wore thinner and thinner. By the time I was halfway through my third, maybe fourth drink, I realized I was buzzed, borderline drunk, and probably looking like an idiot. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that Rory was chatting with some other colleagues, laughing and smiling, and I couldn't stand it. I needed him close. I shoved my way through the group, swaying a little too much, and found him. "Hey, PA, get your ass over here." He blinked, their heads turning towards me as he scrambled up to get towards me. "You're drunk," he exclaimed with a disbelief tone. "Come, I'll take you to the room." I smiled like a Cheshire cat, leaning on him too much. "Finally, I have your precious attention on me." He didn't give away an expression, even though I probably looked ridiculous. I kept rambling, my words slurring together about how I cared less about Celeste's existence, but I did care when Rory ignored my existence, and how he and those anonymous letters had messed with my head. I could hear his heart thrumming wildly, but he kept tugging me to the corridor leading to the room. He finally got me into the room and tried to get me on the bed, but before he could move away, I pulled him down with me. "Stay. Don't go." The alcohol made me bold, and I couldn't stop myself. He looked down at me, eyes wide, but I could tell he was holding himself back. "Nate, you're drunk. This isn't you talking." "No, it's me," I said, voice low and rough. "You don't know how many rumors there are about me. People think I like men." I could feel my pulse quicken, my words sharp. "And maybe they're right, because I don't want anyone else but you." Rory froze. He tried to sit up, but I rolled us over. Before he could protest, I pinned him to the bed, my hands resting on his cheeks. "You've got a choice. You can push me off, or..." I let the sentence hang in the air, tension thick enough to cut with a knife. "Or I kiss you." Rory's breath hitched, his lips parting, but didn't stop me. I kissed him, hard. No hesitation, no overthinking, just need. The world blurred, but all I felt was him, warm, willing, mine. When I pulled away, breathless, his eyes were clouded, lips swollen. No words needed. For that night, it was just us. Rory wasn't avoiding me anymore. If anything, he leaned into me now, stolen glances, lingering touches, that subtle pull toward me like gravity itself was in on this mess, and I let myself enjoy it. But then, there were the letters. The last letter I responded to was taken away by some kid. I don't know, but maybe the sender had anticipated that I'd reply. But after that, they'd slowed to once a month. But they still came, and I still answered. Maybe I shouldn't have, but the anonymity made it easy. No pretends, just words, raw, honest. Last evening, I left my final reply. I think I finally understand what it means to be in love. Cruel, maybe. The sender was clearly drawn to me, and I liked the exchange, but Rory was different. What I felt for him burned through logic, and it was time to close this door properly. Let's meet. You deserve closure, because in this life, I belong to someone else. I left it in my mailbox, same as usual. In the morning, it was gone. As I had anticipated, no response came, but Rory changed. He was distracted, off balance. Small mistakes in his work, unlike him. A misfiled document, a meeting forgotten. When I tried getting him to talk, he shut me out. Then, one late night, I was working late in the office and needed a pen drive. Rory's desk was the obvious place to check, but instead of the drive, I found a half-written letter. I knew the handwriting instantly. For a second, my brain refused to connect the dots, but then it slammed into me. The mumbled drunk words of Rory from that date night, Celeste's twisted jab, his shift after my last letter. The sender wasn't a stranger. It was him. I didn't go home that night, just sat in my chair, blinds drawn, waiting. By morning, Rory walked in, assuming the office was empty. Then, he saw me, his stance startled as he chuckled awkwardly. "Jesus, Nate, did you even go home?" I didn't answer, just watched as his gaze locked onto the letter next. The second it clicked, I saw the blood drain from his face. "Nate, I exhaled. "Tell me it's not you, Rory." Silence. "Say it." His throat bobbed, then quietly, "I wanted to stop, but you kept answering me, Nate." Something inside me cracked. I scoffed, shaking my head. "So what? This was fun for you, messing with me while sitting across from me every damn day?" "No," Rory stepped forward, desperate. "I never meant for it to go this far, but every time you replied, I couldn't stop. And then you asked to meet, and I panicked. I was going to answer today. My jaw clenched as my eyes flicked to the letter. The one where he was rejecting my meeting request, saying we should end it like it started, through letters. How poetic. I let out a slow exhale, running a hand over my face before leveling him with a cold stare. This ends here. Rory inhaled sharply. Nate, please. It's Mr. Calloway for you, and you're fired. My heart roared. It felt like it was clawed off my chest. For the first time, Rory looked lost, like the ground had disappeared beneath him, but I turned away, detached, shutting down whatever the hell this was. Because, fuck, he broke me first. 30 goddamn days, no letter, no Rory, just silence. And it's unbearable. I convinced myself firing Rory was the right thing to do. The betrayal, the deception. Hell, I should have been furious, but instead, my office is emptier than it's ever been. Tasks pile up, and every new PA HR sends in lasts 2 days before I find some excuse to send them packing. Turns out, it's hard to function when you built your entire life around someone who's no longer there. So, I do the only thing left. I reread the letters, every single damn one, and I hate myself for it. For how much of me is in these words. For how blind I was. Every carefully written line, every unspoken feeling, Rory knew me better than anyone. He worshipped me in ink long before either of us had the guts to say it out loud. I couldn't help penning down what I felt in his absence, only to end up throwing it all away. But then, scrambling down to pick it up later. I'm still lost in this self-inflicted torture when Grandpa Mike shows up at my penthouse. The old man doesn't bother with pleasantries. He plops down on the couch, gives me that long, scrutinizing look of his, and sighs dramatically. You're an idiot. All those blind dates went in vain to make you realize your preference, and when you did, you pushed the one who introduced you to your inner self. I scoff. Glad we're skipping the formalities. He leans forward, his gaze sharp. I always suspected that boy had it bad for you. I freeze. You knew? Everyone knew. He waves it off, clearly unimpressed. Except you, apparently. I stay silent, the guilt gnawing at my insides. Grandpa continues. And let's not forget how Rory's been your biggest shield against the media vultures and all the post-divorce drama. He's been in your corner, even when you didn't know it. I clench my jaw. It doesn't change the fact that he lied. Grandpa shakes his head, pity in his eyes. No, kid. He dedicated himself to you solely. You, on the other side, strung him along like mooning over a mystery pen pal like some love-struck fool. If anything, he should be pissed at you. His words land with a force I can't deny. Grandpa's right. I let myself fall for the idea of someone whilst the real thing was beside me every day, loving me, waiting, and I let him go. I don't waste another second. I grab my coat and head out of the door, determined to fix what I broke. I knew where to find him. Rory's at his art studio, sleeves rolled up, fingers smudged with charcoal. When he saw me, he stiffened, his eyes wary like I was a threat. What are you doing here? He asked, voice cautious, his wool's already up. I took a step closer, my heart hammering in my chest. Fixing what I broke. I held out the letter, my own this time. He didn't take it right away. Instead, he crossed his arms, chin tilting up defiantly. You fired me, Nate. You ended the thing even before it started. You didn't listen to me. I was a goddamn idiot. Rory's gaze softened with unshed tears. And now? I exhaled sharply, the weight of everything settling on me. And now I've spent a month being miserable because I'm in love with the guy who spent 5 years loving me in silence, and I'm done wasting time. His eyes glistened, but he didn't move. I was never supposed to be the second choice. You never were, I said, my voice lower now, my heart talking with the truth I should have realized sooner. I just had to catch up. He looked at me, torn before his gaze flicked to the letter in his hand I gave. He hesitated before reading it. You waited 5 years for me. Let me spend forever making it up to you. When Rory looked up, there were tears slipping down his cheek. But he was smiling. You're such a dramatic jerk. I couldn't help but smirk. Took you this long to figure it out? But then, before I could say anything else, he came closer with a playful smile. Now, who do you love more? The anonymous letter sender or the guy who had given you a tough time as your brother-in-law? I smirk, chuckling as I yank him closer by his waist and whispered, I love the guy I'm about to kiss and make mine forever. With that, we lost ourselves in each other as our kiss was desperate, raw, years of longing finally unleashed. No secrets, no letters, just us. When we finally broke apart, I rested my forehead against his, breathing in his warmth. This time, you wouldn't have to hide your love for me, I said, cupping his face, because I'm not letting go. And when I kissed him again, I knew neither of us would ever let go of each other. Months later, life feels like something out of one of Rory's letters, except better, because now I can touch, kiss, and love the man behind the words. Rory still teases me about how long it took me to figure it out. I still keep every single letter displayed in a glass case in my study. One evening, as we sit on the couch after a small disagreement, I pull out a small envelope and hand it to Rory. What's this? Rory asks, brow raised. Open it, I shrugged nonchalantly. Inside, written in my own handwriting, I love you, in case you ever forget. Rory laughed softly, forgetting his anger, leaning into me. You're terrible at letters. I grinned, raining butterfly kisses on his cheeks and pulling him closer. Good thing I'm better at showing it. How long do you think it takes to truly realize what you've been missing? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.